Welcome back to the Views from Crowd Loud podcast. I'm your host, Ben. I'm joined by my regular co-host, Trent. Bills Rams. Obviously, the Bills did lose 44-42. A lot to take away from this game.
We haven't done a loss
It was a
podcast in a
fun
long
game.
time.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we haven't done one
I
in a
know.
while anyway.
And it's been overdue.
Whoops.
For sure. I mean, this was a game that you just, as a football fan, it ruled. I mean, if you don't like defense, this is the game for you. Because it wasn't played in this game whatsoever on either side.
Well, yeah.
So it was just
if you had a number 17, you're going to have a good day. If you didn't,
right,
you're not going to have a.
Or if you have a number 9, because both deserve their praise in this game because they both play their asses off.
Well, one of them tried to use his guardian cap as a Koopa Troop helmet again. So
yeah, that's true. So yeah, there's a lot to take away. Obviously, I think it would be doing it a disservice to not start the show off with talking about Josh Allen because of what we're seeing now. It's every week it's something new, and it feels like he's breaking an NFL record like every snap at this point. I mean, 3 touchdowns passing, 3 touchdowns rushing. That's an NFL record. Obviously, the only person to ever do that. He's the Bills' all-time touchdowns leader now. He is just doing things that I don't think we're ever going to see again. Because when I talk about quarterbacks, and I don't like to do the whole measuring stick thing, comparing him to every other quarterback in the world, but for what he brings and the problems he presents, I mean, even a lot of these defensive coordinators say it, he is just a pain in the ass to prepare for. Because how do you stop the guy? There's really no answer for that because he can dink and dunk on you. He can throw it over your head. He can run. I mean, he can do everything, and he can do everything well. So, like, I want to kind of go to you, Trent. Like, what did you see from Josh in this performance besides the super god of a quarterback that he is, where he's just raining fire on the Rams defense? Like, what were you seeing, like, in terms of what he was doing, like, as, processing the field? Like, what were you seeing to really let him do this at such a high level?
I mean, I'll be honest. I have an easier time dissecting like what Burrow did, or like dissecting Justin Herbert's play, because that's just normal quarterback play. Like that's the thing. You go, oh well, you can see like the only negative is Josh still can't throw a deep bomb. Other than that,
and it's like that's not where the game's played. Like there's maybe 3 or 5% of the plays that you have in your playbook are designated for that. Like a lot of it is just 20 to 30 yards. I mean, probably the max.
They ran a screenplay and it worked.
Yeah, it did. Two screenplays worked.
Multiple screenplays. Like,
so I mean, the tides must be shifting or something if the Bills run successful screenplays in 2024 because. It's never been done before, actually.
No.
It's in the record books. That's probably the most important record in this game. The Bills ran a successful screenplay. And those screenplays were actually designed very well by Joe Grady.
Yeah.
It's not just a traditional screenplay. And even on the first one, the Ty Johnson one where he was cut down short of the goal line, I think he was stripped up. It was an absolute he just tight window throw. I think it was Verse that was in the lane.
Right. Yeah.
Josh was just able to just laser this ball in there. And it's like, man, for all the crap he gets about something, people think he's an inaccurate quarterback. He can make those kinds of throws, and it's ridiculous that we still bring that up because it's like,
if you're bringing up,
holy hell, how is he doing that? Even Tom Brady was like,
in 2024 about Josh Allen. I don't know what you've been watching. I don't know what. There's nothing he could do. Like at that point, that's just the thing that's going to stick onto him. Just like LeBron not winning the ring forever stuck onto him until he finally run wings. A-Rod hopping from team to team and doing steroids hung onto him for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just at that point you're just denying yourself of what your eyes are telling you. You just want to hang on to a belief you've had and just don't want to be wrong. I mean, I normally I'd love to be like dissecting things, but like if you just like second half roll around and they're losing, I'm like, all right, they probably lost. Let's just sit back and watch Josh Allen sling it. And then you watch him and you're like, oh my God, this guy is the greatest football player on the planet.
They were down 17 points, and they lost by 2.
Yeah.
They lost by 2.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for, a stupid block punt, you could make the case that they should have won this game.
I
I
keep
mean, and
seeing
that's the
people
crazy thing.
say that there was no turnovers. I consider a block punt a turnover, right?
I do too.
The
I do
the
too.
play that happened did not happen. And the Cowboys,
Right.
the Bengals game shows that you can have multiple turnovers on the same block punt. Good work, boys.
Hmm. Yeah, and it was. We'll get into the Bills special teams because I have a few gripes with it, and I changes need to be made there because it's consistently let this team down. Besides, maybe you can argue the kick return from Codrington. I think he's been pretty solid, but overall, as a unit, they have not been good. They're 25th in special teams DVOA. They just aren't good.
I know they
And
track those
we talk
things.
about the playoffs. You talk about the playoffs where these little things add up. I don't want it to be a scenario where we're in a divisional round. We're playing, the Ravens or whatever, and we're up by 6 late in the game, and we muff a punt or miss a tackle, and they gain a 30-yard return. Like those scenarios can't happen. But
I think we've discovered
back
how
to Josh.
the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills this year.
Yeah, it's just going to be some.
It's going to be
I saw
it's going to
someone
be the Bills
tweet.
have like 10 guys on the field for a punt that's going to seal the game and it gets
Yeah,
blocked and the
right.
Chiefs return it
Yeah,
65 yards. That,
somebody on Twitter
that's
said
how it's going to end.
the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl on a walk-off safety against the Lions. It's going to be Dan Orlovsky all over again, and that's how they're going to win the Super Bowl.
No,
And I
it's
could
gonna
totally see
be
it.
intentional grounding because Amon-Ra St. Brown ran the wrong
Yeah,
route.
yeah,
That's what's gonna
yeah.
be.
It's ridiculous. But back to Josh though. Like we're talking about this, and in the MVP conversation gets brought up every week now. I mean, he lost this game, and his MVP odds doubled. I mean, and that should tell you everything you need to know. And it's just like every week he's pushing the narrative in a different direction because somebody's always trying to find something else to take out against him. And this week it was the tush pushes. It's like the guy can't be stopped at the goal line. Like, do you want us not to do that? Like,
Right.
and we talk about this. It's not like he gets the majority of his rushing touchdowns from that. I
No.
mean, he has proven time and time again he's capable, more than capable of getting, long distance touchdown runs. Like, look at the Chiefs game. That was pretty much a game winning touchdown right there, and he did it from I don't know 30 yards out.
20 that was like a
The
25
Steelers
yard run.
playoff game.
That was a 55-yard
The
run.
Steelers playoff game. I mean, like he has proven that it's not just the 1 yard rushing touchdowns. I mean, he certainly uses it to his advantage, but teams can't stop it until they figure out how to stop it. The Bills are going to continue to use that, and
And
it's
you
used
know what's
against Jalen
crazy,
Hurts as
Ben,
well.
is
So
that a lot of times you see like I'll use Lamar because Lamar to me is like if Madden '04 Mike Vick for anyone who's a little bit older
mhm,
and played that game, it's like if Madden '04 Mike Vick was a real football player. Like that's what Lamar
yeah,
Jackson is. That I can't go on Madden video game, any Madden video game, and do what Josh Allen does on a weekly basis.
mm,
Like, and you watch
no,
his Wyoming tape. I remember watching Wyoming games to watch Josh Allen. He didn't even do any of that then. It's like he got
no,
better as his competition got better. It like
and
I don't
that's
have
the
enough
thing with
words to
Josh.
describe how
Yeah,
like supernova Josh Allen is. Like
that
again, Joe Burrow threw for 360 something yards on Monday
mhm,
Night Football, and you still walk away thinking, yeah, Josh Allen's the best football player on the planet right now.
yeah, that's where I keep coming back to. You go back to that Wyoming tape, like. Every year, even in the big breakout years, he's continued to just get better. Like this is insane.
This is the
Like you're
best we've seen
seeing
him.
some like even Tom Brady is saying, like you saw on the broadcast, he was mentioning like how his processing is so much better. He's making smart decisions. Like he's adding that to a player that's already a freak athlete that can hurdle over linebackers, truck through linebackers, throw a ball, 80 yards the opposite hash, it feels like he makes these plays happen. He's got all this ridiculous talent, and he's starting to channel it in the right way. And it's like almost just teams just like don't even know what to do. Like there is no answer to it, and I don't think there ever will be an answer until you start to see that age drop off, which God knows when that will happen because he's starting to process the game at such a high level. He might just play till he's 38, 39. So yeah, I mean he was
He's
incredible,
getting
but
protected
at the end of the
that
day,
Cam Newton never got. So yeah, it
yeah.
might be a while.
At the end of the day, though, the Bills did lose this game, and we have to get into the why because there is plenty of why, and there's a lot of things to talk about, and I think we have to
Before we
start with the
go
defense.
into this, I
No, go
do
ahead.
want to top it
Yeah,
off
go.
by saying the other 17 probably had one of the best wide receiver games I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Like Matt Stafford
yeah. And
took
then we're
some good
we'll
footballs, but there's just times I looked over and told my dad's like, They're not going to stop Puka
You can't do
Nakua.
anything.
I
No, you're
mean,
not.
like
And
it's not
that's
even the Bills. The Bills couldn't like there was throws that Matt Stafford missed, and the defenders were in the right spot, and Puka Nakua still caught it.
mhm.
What are you going to do against that?
There's nothing you can do.
No.
And
The
that's
lone
a
stop
part
of
of
the
it
day
was
they
just
got was because Nakua wasn't on the field. He was hurt.
right.
That's what
Yeah,
changed
and
the
it's
game for the
just
Bills.
the part of it is you're just unlucky at some of these points. It's like there's nothing you could do differently. And yeah, they did absolutely deserve their praise. I mean, Puka, even Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, they all played extraordinarily
Yeah,
well. And Puka, obviously, specifically, he caused a lot of fits for this Bills defense. And he made Taron Johnson look bad. And
he made
nobody does
that.
that.
We could have. I
Nobody does
think we
that.
could have pulled out prime Terrence McGee. We could have pulled out any
There's a
corner that
lot of
you've ever
corners you
seen
could
put
put
on a
on.
Bills uniform.
Yeah,
The same results happening. I mean,
the guy's ridiculous. Yeah.
you could have got
And I think
prime
it's
Trey White out
also
there. It still wasn't making a difference.
a testament to Stafford to knowing, okay, like this guy's gonna it's gonna work today, and they were just on, and I think a lot of people like get
Calvin
lost in this. The
Johnson,
Bills
that
defense,
Calvin Johnson connection just must have ran right through his head because he's like, oh,
yeah,
I could just throw it
I'm feeding this dude
generally
today.
near him
I
and
don't know
he's
how many
catching it.
targets he finished with, but I
15.
want to say a 15. So
And he
that's actually
caught
only
and he
one more
caught
than
like
Amari
somehow
Cooper.
he had 3 drops or 3 incompletions. I'm not sure where
It's
those came
he
from.
was I don't know either, but the dude was on another level today. That Sunday. And a lot of it, was just Puka being the better player. But there were times where the Bills defense were just kicking themselves in the foot. 11 and 15, they were on third down. Like the Bills put themselves in positions to get off the field. It's not like they were getting gashed every single play. It was more of just a slow death. And that's what this game was. It wasn't like you were seeing the Rams get 40, 50-yard passes on the Bills. Like the Bills were, you know,
Out to
doing
lunch.
their part.
They're
They
out to
were just
lunch.
not they were just they weren't going to win this game.
There was a
And,
measure at like some point in the third or fourth quarter, Ben, where like once they started getting the big gains on them and it wasn't even Puka, that you're just like, oh, that's how this game's gonna go.
yeah,
Because I
it's
mean,
going to go that way.
like it literally took Nakua not being on the field and them getting a third down stop that flipped the game back on for the Bills. Because like you could see there was a measure of what do we do?
Yeah.
Like I remember like start of the second quarter, it was like a third and 11 or start of the third quarter maybe. It was like a third and 11. I forgot what
Mhm.
quarter it was. It was the start of it though. Rams get the ball. It's their first, they just got kickoff. Their Bills about to knock them out the field because they've had 2 plays and nothing. And Puka Nakua makes a great catch. And you're just like,
What do we do?
I guess we're just
What do
gonna
we do?
die today. Like
Yeah.
Taron Johnson, if
And
his hand is maybe like maybe if he
a
doesn't trim
slight
his
yeah,
if he doesn't trim his fingernails that day, maybe he makes a deflection. But
yeah. It's woulda, coulda, shoulda with this. And this isn't we're talking about like a bad off. This is a really, really talented offense.
it's
And I
a
said going into
Jekyll
the
and
year,
Hyde offense in that if Puka Nakua is feeling it,
if they stay healthy,
they can't be
I
beat.
mean, I would argue that could make they could very easily make the Super Bowl if they stay healthy.
I hope they
They
don't.
have the talent to do so.
Yeah,
I hope they don't either. I
stay
really
far away
don't.
from my football team and never show up ever again. I don't want to see them for another 4
Yeah.
years.
And
Stay away from me.
this is a team that Bills don't see very often, once every 4 years. So there's a little bit of a less familiarity there. So I understand element of it. But for me, the biggest frustrating part about this team was the defensive line. I think I keep going back to this. Like, where has Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver been all season?
Cardio.
Maybe besides the Chiefs game, like it's just been week after week. It's just donuts in the box score. Like they have a combined 3 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and 19 total tackles. That is horrific. That is horrific.
That's
And
not
like
good.
we're talking about Stafford here,
That's
who's
not good.
really calculated against good pass rush, but they didn't even really knock him off his spot. They were able to get there, but he extends the play just long enough. So it's like
I mean, you
this
needed
team
to
doesn't
send
finish.
7 because nobody in the
Yeah.
interior is being their block.
But when they did in 7, like the Rams picked it up. Like a lot of those delayed blitzes where you would see, a nickel fly in there, or you'd send, a Matt Milano or a Terrell Bernard. Like the Rams were picking it up, and that was the problem because the interior was just so bad. And early in the game, you saw how this game was trending. Kyron Williams was running all over this defense. They had to bring in more bodies. And that kind of just takes away the strength of this defense, which is their secondary. We all know the Sean McDermott, strength is playing from top down defense. It's using his safeties and preventing the big play. But when you have to take some of those bodies away and plug more gaps, it's hard for you to live that way. And it's just always the Bills have always been susceptible to run because of this scheme, and it's going to be a big concern for as long as Sean McDermott is the head coach. So they do need to clean it up. And I
Part of
think even
that
Tom Brady
also
said on the broadcast,
comes from the fact that one of the linebackers is playing with enough rust that WD-40 can't knock it off.
yeah, yeah, that's he's Tom Brady even said this is probably the most volatile run defense in the league. They're either getting in the backfield making a TFL or they're just getting gashed. There's no in between. And that's the tough part with this team because they don't have any answers right now and they're getting beat. And especially you got the next opponent, you look at your schedule, you got the Lions up next. Like that is going to be the biggest test a defensive line could face
I
possibly
think
anywhere around this
I
league.
truly think, Ben, that the answer is that Dorian Williams plays more. And I'm not saying
I
this
agree.
as the world's biggest Dorian Williams fan. I'm saying this as Matt Milano is not ready. I mean,
No,
simply
he's
put,
not.
he could play passing downs. He could play,
Mhm.
obvious situation downs, like a
Yes,
first and second
for sure.
down. Like you could see he's just like not there yet. Like he's
He's
getting
not there
there, but
yet.
you see
He
flashes of
You
older
see the
stuff.
flashes. You see
And
the
then you
flashes
make
for
a
sure.
point
Like
where it's just like I think another
yeah.
linebacker makes a play here.
Yeah. On tape, he definitely showed the willingness. He still flies to the ball. He's just like you said, he's not there yet. And obviously Dorian Williams, I thought was defending the run at a very good level. And like I've told people, people have asked me, why isn't he playing? And I'm like, I don't know, because at the very least, he
I think
gives you
the
a quality
answer
relief
truly,
pitcher,
Ben,
and like,
is that they believe that Matt Milano once he knocks the rust off is better than Dorian
yeah,
Williams. The problem is you got to
which
knock the
is
rust off somehow.
you got to knock the rust
Yeah,
off.
rust doesn't come off in
And you know
practice.
what? As much as I'm fine with them doing that. It's just the extent they're doing it at. Like Dorian Williams shouldn't just be completely taken
Yeah,
off the field.
correct.
He isn't a. I don't think he's as bad as a replacement level player. He's an above average player in this league, and he shouldn't lose all of his playing time. Yes, Matt Milano's a phenomenal player. He does a lot of great things for this defense. He's essentially the leader of this defense, him and Terrell Bernard. But Dorian Williams has earned the respect, at least from me, and I think he should have earned it from his coaches, playing good enough to earn snaps still, and
Yeah,
he isn't. And we'll see if that changes this week. I think it. I mean, they're gonna obviously have to change this, and that's the good thing about this game because it's sort of a wake up call, Trent. Because like you're not going to go out. This defense isn't going to play that bad every week. Obviously not. They're going to regress to the mean. They're still top 10 in defensive DVOA. They're still a good team. Um, but they just need to improve and they need to shore up some areas. And Dorian Williams playing more could help with that. So, the defense, it will improve. So I think people need to relax a little bit. But the D line is concerning for me. Because I think for a while now they don't have those, especially a D line. I mean, think about the defensive tackles. Like they have very undersized defensive linemen. Like they don't really have the beef at all. And you could
yeah,
say
they don't
Jordan
have big
Phillips is
boys.
a bigger guy, but he's not. He's not a run
He's
stopper. He's a pass rush specialist. So
yeah.
like you don't have anybody to plug those gaps. So is it Ilianku on the practice squad? Like, what's your answer there? It's not really
It's
somebody
funny
that's gonna
that
make a
I
difference.
don't recall the Bills maybe since Marcel Darius really having big defensive tackles. Like Kyle
Yeah.
Williams even
Yeah.
was undersized, and that's just kind of the mode they went with for a long time. Was
Mhm.
you know they always have like been weirdly on the trend of the smaller D tackles, whether that's just
Mm.
what they like, what they found, what the previous regimes had, and they just kind of like, yeah, I agree. It's because you're right, Ben. I even when they've had some big guys like Puna
Yeah.
Ford and
Just hasn't played.
they
And it's
just don't
funny enough, you
find a
say Puna
lineup.
Ford, he's playing phenomenally in
Yeah,
LA right now. And it's just
it's
it's a scheme thing, I think. It really it boils down to what they prefer. And I get that. Like you have your preference, you have your demands and your requirements, but there needs to be a little bit of a personnel variance there. Like you can't just sit here and say, okay, we're not going to have
I
a
think
single run stuffing defensive tackle on this team. They don't have that
I
right
think the
now, and that's a
biggest
problem.
problem was I don't think they predicted this was the year Daquan would hit that proverbial wall of
The wall, yeah,
because I mean you could see like first play of the game he had a great play and then disappeared. Like
disappeared. Yep,
it's just and you can see it's just like he's not doesn't have the same burst. He doesn't have the same strength, and he's not
he's not the
clogging up
same player
holes. I mean,
whatsoever.
really, you're dangerously approaching
I
stuff
think
with 2A.
you were actually probably starting to see that when he returned from the pack injury last year.
Yeah,
Like I think you were starting to see the signs, and obviously it's never, and
in
that's why
retrospect,
I talk
absolutely, you're
about,
correct, Ben.
yeah, like I'm not. That's why I'm kind of cautious about paying a guy like Rasul Douglas, who's on the other side of 30 now. Like, when is that wall going to hit? Like, that's the risk you take with paying older players. And he earned that contract. Absolutely, he played up to it. It's just it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation, and I think you know the Bills just don't have game records at defensive line. Like Greg Rousseau, like he has those moments where it's like, okay, he has it in him to do it,
Yeah,
and so does Ed Oliver's proven that he's done that. But you look around the rest of the AFC, you got T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward, Justin Madubuike. Like there is just every team.
Chris
Chris Jones
Jones.
on the Chiefs, like they have these dogs, they have these game records. The Bills, as long as McDermott's been here, has never had that. And they've had moments of that. They just don't have the consistency from these players to get that. And it's a big disadvantage because if
Ironically,
you
their
win in the
game
trenches,
record has
you're
been Matt Milano for many, many
right.
years.
Right.
Was their game
Hmm.
record was their linebacker.
Yeah.
That was their run defense was their
And
game
that's a
wrecking linebacker.
tough way to live
Yeah, and
when you don't have that superstar pass rusher. And that's what they were hoping Vaughn was going to be.
he was for
And I
like
mean,
10 games.
he was, and that's very true.
Like that's the one thing I
And
when people
again,
bring up the Vaughn contract. It looked really good right up until he tore his ACL,
yes,
and
hundred
that could have
percent.
happened to a rookie first round pick they could have gotten. It could have happened to
Yeah,
anybody really. Like you don't know how you're going to rebound from ACLs.
I
Nick
I
Chubb.
think
Nick Chubb's career is probably over once his contract's done with
yeah,
Cleveland.
probably.
Like he does not look
Yeah.
good.
I mean,
That's
Jonathan Brooks, second round pick, just tore his ACL for the second time in a calendar year.
yeah,
So,
and who knows
or
if he's going to be good? Like that's and
yeah,
they tried to take a risk with Von Miller, and clearly it not been
it
great.
didn't pay off. But
Um,
you know what? It was the risk worth taking. This
yeah,
team was so close. They needed that closer. It was the right decision at the time. It just didn't work out the way they wanted to. And I'm curious. Like, do they back up the Brinks truck again and like look back into that well and look at another pass rusher? Like this team, like if they have that number one pass rusher, it does a lot for this defense. And I like Greg Rousseau. I like Ed Oliver. I think this isn't the end of Ed Oliver. Like he's gonna bounce back out
I
of
think
this.
Dwayne
He
Carter
had a very good game against the
rebounding
Chiefs.
is going to be very important to
Dwayne
Ed
Smoot
Oliver.
is an important player, I
Smoot
think,
as
as well.
well. Yeah,
Like
Smoot would be nice.
they have some pieces up there. Like this isn't gonna be a terrible defensive line, but they need to figure out a consistency. And I don't know if you need to find like a new defensive line coach or what.
Did we get a new one?
Because we as promoted our assistant, but I mean, go back to Eric Washington. I mean, he was terrible. I mean, look at what he's doing with the Bears. It's just been bad for them all season long. And I know it's the Bears, but Eric Washington hasn't helped at all. So I mean, yeah, this defense. The main concern for me is the defensive line. Like I have all the faith in the world for Matt Milano to continue to improve. The secondary, I think, is going to be fine. The safeties, I thought, probably played the best out of anybody on this defense, considering what they had to deal with up front and how the pass rush was not helping them whatsoever.
Yeah, old
Um,
Demar's finally. I remember your guys' reaction when I said Demar Hamlin was a certain safety, and he's finally turned himself into
you
a
proved me wrong. You proved me wrong
quality
for
NFL.
sure.
I wouldn't say he's a great safety. I would say he's a NFL starter. Like
He's
he's
fine
slowly
safety. Yep, he's
progressed
fine
from
safety.
like backup to replacement level to starter all 1 year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and Rap's basically been a lot of what Micah Hyde used to be and being the center field last resort safety. Like how
Mhm.
many
Yeah.
game? I mean, they've won games because Taylor Rapp was playing safety. Like that's
Yeah. They've gotten quality safety play this year, which has been a very pleasant surprise.
yes,
Very, very pleasant. Because I mean, everybody's mother and brother and sister pegged that as the Bills' biggest weakness going into the season, and it's probably been one of their biggest strengths when you look back on it. Because they haven't been outstanding, like you said, but they've provided a baseline level of play that it's not volatile every week. They're not getting
you're not
killed every
getting like the
play.
Bengals level of safety play. You're getting
Yeah,
quality safety play.
you're getting above average
Yeah,
starting safety play.
yeah, you're getting what you would
Um,
expect.
yeah, I want to kind of go into sort of the late game dramatics of this game because there's so much to dive into here. And I'm sure there's a lot of angry people that are going to be watching the show that are there's been a lot of angry people commenting on my Instagram talking about this because there's just been so many takes about this whole
And they're
situation.
all
But
incorrect. That's right.
let's
You
break it
heard me.
down. Trent's got a few words to say, but let's break it down first. Obviously, there's a few things that were magnified in this game. I do think some of these things were overblown. Let's start with this one because it's not in order. We're not going to go in order. I'm going to just jump around here and kind of analyze each play. But we go to the what was first and goal at the one, and Sean McDermott gets criticized for the Bills doing tush push, but I think a lot of people lost sight in their anger and were blinded by it because they weren't paying attention probably to the post game press conference because they were too busy yelling at Sean McDermott. He didn't make that decision. It was a collective decision from Joe Brady and Josh Allen to do that. It looked. I saw the angle. It was from the end zone angle, from the goalpost behind it. It looked like the right play, but Zach Davidson, who was the designated pusher on Josh's right side, just kind of lost his balance, didn't get the full push, and it is what it is. Should the timeout have been called? Probably not. But this team, I'm going to sit here, you know, 1 week ago, Sean McDermott was just praised by every single member of this fan base. Like, consider like, oh, should he win Coach of the Year? Like, I'm not going to sit up here and say I was one of those people, but I will say like you can't just switch up after 1 week. I mean, he's easily the most successful coach we've had in this franchise, besides Marv. Um, it's easy to point fingers and blame, and I will say McDermott definitely needs to improve in these situations. It's year 8, like he needs to shore up a lot of these decision making process, like because like some of these things are like obvious, painfully obvious. Like
You know who
why
he
are you?
is? He's John Harbaugh without the rings. Like you
Yes,
watch
I
Ravens
agree with you
games,
there.
they'll challenge like a 2nd and 4 run, the third
And
play of the
Ravens
game.
fans complain just as
Yeah,
much. I mean, earlier in the
hell,
year,
Steelers
I
fans
saw
complain
a
about
guy
Tomlin
storming out
every
of the
year,
stadium.
and
Yeah, I mean, every
Chiefs fans
every
complain about
quality
Reed
team.
until he got Pat Mahomes.
Yes,
I think it's just
it's
that's
every coach is going to be criticized on one
eventually
level or
Lions fans are
another.
going to criticize Dan Campbell. Like that's just how it is. Um, but
Yeah,
the quarterback run, I mean, I personally thought when they lined up, I was like, oh, they're going to do the old school Tebow jump pass option play. Like,
yeah,
back when Tim Tebow played in Florida, one of the plays they had is Tim Tebow line up in shotgun. They put like all the big boys
mhm.
up front, and they'd have a tight
Yep,
end,
I know exactly what you're
pretty
talking
much
about.
Aaron Hernandez, like sprint across the
Yeah,
middle so that if the run wasn't there, Tebow just lobs it up and hopes the tight end catches it. That's
yeah,
kind because the issue with calling a run play is that no matter what, you're going to have to call a timeout. Like you can't run a run play near the goal line and not call a timeout because you got 6 big guys just laying on top of the ball. Like they're not going to move.
mhm,
They're not
yeah,
going to roll over. That's easily 15, 20 seconds gone right there. So I think I would have rather, like, if you're going to do a quarterback run, I think I would rather just spread it 5 wide, get everyone as
yeah,
far away from the center of the field as possible, try to thin out the middle, and then let Josh figure out
yeah.
what he wants to
And
do.
we know that. I mean, that's the thing. Like the old line was holding up great all day. Like, and even if let's say somebody gets close to Josh, like he is second to none at navigating that pressure and extending the play. So, I mean, you got 4 shots of getting in the end zone, four pass attempts really,
Yeah.
and so you shouldn't be put in the position anyways to call that timeout. So, I think a lot of this is a disconnect between coaches. I feel like it falls on the entirety of the coaching staff because there is a lot of miscommunication. Like you go back to the holding call that was accepted. I
That
feel like
that one
McDermott
actually,
McDermott
that one I felt McDermott botched.
McDermott I would say, he declines that penalty if he knows the kind of defense that Babbage is about to run on third down. Babbage plays a lot of prevent. It's essentially the same situation, but here's the thing: it takes off 40 extra seconds off the clock, and
Not only
that's
did it take up 40
really.
extra seconds, do they go for it if it's 4th and 7? Like fourth and
I
five
think they
is
do.
very
I think they do.
fourth and five. You
I
can
don't think.
bank on 5 yards, 7 yard. Like remember how we've talked about in the
I don't know.
past
I
how
mean,
McDermott said like
talk
his
about
go for
this.
it's 4th and 2. Like if it's
Mhm.
4th and 2.5, he's not going for it. But 4th and 2, he's confident his team could get 4th and 2. Like is McVay's 5? Like it felt like
I
I
just
felt like they were get off the field to kick a field goal. That's what it felt
to
like they're
me it
doing.
felt like they were going for it no matter what, and because a lot of times you'll see these teams quote unquote kick the field goal of death. Like you're giving Josh Allen basically the ball to win the game. And I don't think McVay, under any circumstance, wanted to do that. He wanted to have his offense decide the fate of the game. And I respect the hell out of him because it takes a lot of balls to do that. And a lot of people in that situation would have handled it differently. But the way
When
they
you
were
have
moving the
a wide
ball and the
receiver going
success.
supernova, I'd absolutely leave it in his
I mean,
hands.
that's the thing, Trent. Like, that's the success they were having on third and fourth down. They were combined 12 of 16 on third and fourth down. Like, I'm pretty sure they were confident in getting it, no matter. It's a 2 yard difference. I don't think that would have swayed them. And it's a long field goal, anyways, with a young kicker who hasn't had a ton of experience in this league, anyways. So I do think they go for it. But, my biggest gripe was 40 seconds comes off the clock. That's an extra 40 seconds you have. That's huge. You don't need all three timeouts then if you have that extra 40 seconds. You essentially get a chance to get the game winning field goal. And then we go back to the end of the game. 9 players are on special teams. What's
That's
going on?
that's special
And
teams
and that
coach.
doesn't fall on McDermott.
No,
That's the
it's
special teams coordinator Matthew Smiley, who I think has been,
bad.
for my money, the worst coordinator the Bills have had, even over Brady or Dorsey. I'm sorry. He has been
Even
terrible,
over Rick
and
Dennison.
it's maybe you could make the argument
Uh,
because like it's been brutal and it's consistent blunders. Like your long snapper shouldn't be getting folded like a lawn chair and the other team runs it back for a touchdown. Like you have to have assignments and players need to be accounted for, and there just wasn't. And the special
oh,
teams
that's
unit
right.
has just let
On
us
that
down.
play, there was only 10 guys on the field for the
Correct.
for the.
It's
That's
like
part
how
of
does
it.
that
There should
consistently
because
happen?
looking back at it, there should have been another guy behind there because normally punts there's
Mhm.
the up man
There's an
and
up end. Yeah, yeah.
there's no up man. Up man's not there.
It wasn't there, and you could tell on McDermott's, like the expression on his face when he started the post game presser, like there was 9 guys on special teams. Like he was just pissed. He was like, "There was 9 guys. What the fuck do you want me to do?" Like there's nothing differently he could have done, and that's sort of what gets thrown into it. Like people like to throw in things McDermott has nothing to do with
Yeah, you
to continue to dunk on him.
what you want McDermott to throw the helmet
Like I
on,
feel like we
like
got to be
longest guard,
consistent and
put the
fair.
helmet on himself and go out there like.
Yeah,
And I know people are mad that he says he has confidence in Matthew Smiley. That's just a
but what do
generic
you expect
answer.
the guy to
He's not
say?
firing
That's
him
that's
mid-season.
coach speak. That is
Yeah,
literally just coach speak.
yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to fire the guy this late in the season. And
No.
I mean, what are you going to do? It's we're in December now. I mean, they're all in. This is the group they got, and I mean, you're not going to see any changes to this team. And if you're calling for change, well, I have news for you. It's not coming. This is, I
If
mean,
you want change on the
99.99% of the
Bills,
NFL are set.
if you want change on the Bills for the top of the chain, just take a look at the team that plays in KeyBank Center
Look
and
at the
make
other
a
team.
decision if
Yeah,
that's a good idea because it's not.
yeah,
It's not a good
yeah.
idea.
It's not.
They
It's really not. And whew,
Gee,
it gets me amped up because some people are just really out of touch with what's going on in the game, and they like to. I understand you want to have a scapegoat. It's frustrating.
yeah.
McDermott doesn't handle most of these situations well, and I get that. But it's also important to be fair and understand who's really to blame here.
Like the biggest gripe I
Um,
would have is the 3rd and 17, just simply out of
yeah,
I'd rather take my chance. Like also a thing you could do and the Steelers showed you could do this. You could just see what they do on 4th and 7, right? If they send
Yeah.
the offense back out there, go, hey, wait, I want to accept the penalty. That's because that's what the Steelers did. They took a
Yeah.
timeout
That's
to accept and
very
decline the
true.
penalty 4 times. So you easily could have just seen, hey, if the field goal team's coming out there, all right, decline the penalty 4th down.
Yeah.
If the offense come back out there, go, wait, I want to accept that penalty. Like that's the lone gripe I have is that I wish they were taking advantage of the rules like that. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, I'm going to sound greedy saying I want to take advantage of rules when Josh Allen gets at least 1 or 2 superstar quarterback calls every single week.
I know.
So,
He's good at it too, though.
oh,
I
phenomenal. You could
he
tell he any lessons he took with Brady,
he's an
he
elite
learned
flyer.
that part
Elite.
solid.
Yeah.
Like you could even
Yeah.
tell when Brady talked about that, you could tell in his raspy voice he realized that's the same crap he used to do all the damn time.
Oh, Brady did that all the time,
Oh,
all the
you
time,
laid a
and that's what
finger
good
on him. He
quarterbacks
goes
do. They
straight to the
try
ref.
to they literally do as much as they possibly can to win, and that just shows the kind of player Josh is and how much he cares. He is going to do everything he can to get his team positive plays, whether it's post whistle or pre snap. He's going to do it all, and that's what I respect about him. I have a few questions now submitted by some of our
Oh,
followers, so I
sweet
do
mailbag
appreciate you
questions.
guys
Thanks for remembering
answering
we
some
exist.
questions. Yeah, I know, right? And it feels like it's been years
Yeah,
since
we
we've
went
been
to a
last
gravel
recorded.
lot once. That didn't go
So
very well. So
yeah, it didn't go great. Somebody asked here, is Bobby Babbitt the new Ken Dorsey? And I'll take the lead on this, and we'll kind of go into it. And I'm gonna go ahead and say resoundingly no. And it's easy to point the blame at the defensive coordinator. He didn't have a good game. All right, like a lot of the coverages he called were beat, and it was bad, and it was ugly, or whatever. Regardless, went into the year thinking this Bills defense was the worst we've had under Sean McDermott, one of the worst we've had, and they're still top 10 in DVOA. They're the highest takeaway differential in the league. They're taking the ball away. I mean, there's young players emerging all over.
they're doing all this with
Christian
no defensive
Benford.
line.
Yeah, they're doing this with really a minimal pass rush, and they're successful. And this last week was really, I think, it was more of an outlier, if anything. I mean, the defense is still going to be probably concerning, especially in the postseason. But it's at the point where it's like they've proven that they're stable enough to give you good results. And to compare him to Ken Dorsey basically had the opposite. He had everything at his disposal. He had the number one wide receiver. He had Josh Allen. He had James Cook. He had the offensive line. He had all these things in his disposal, and yet time and time again we would see the Bills' offense trip over itself and not consistently score and fall apart in high leverage situations. The Bills defense doesn't do that to that extent. Like they're not perfect, but it's also they're less talented than the Bills offense. It's like, what are we doing here? I mean, what do you think, Trent?
If that was a take you had in week 1, or maybe after like the Ravens game, or you really didn't have a lot of samples to go off of, I'd listen to you. The Bills were 10-2 going into that game with a defense that
Mm-hmm.
you just knew that if they sucked in the first half, they were laying down the clamps in the second half. Like this is the first game all year they just sucked. Like I wouldn't even say they sucked that bad in the Ravens game because I'm gonna sound like a lunatic to a lot of people. McDermott's Bills teams follow trends. Like they are a very trend happy team. That they're typically ahead of the curve a lot of times, a lot of things. But a lot of times they've been the same exact team with different, cast members. It's the same play. Derrick Henry
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always beat the Bills. I know that narrative gets pushed around a lot. He doesn't always do it. Right. But when he does it
Mm-hmm.
spectacularly. Like
Yeah.
he's very much explosive entrance type of guy where if he doesn't get that, it's just like he's had a game against the Bills where he ran for 40 yards on like the 15 carries. Like,
He had 13 rushes, 25 yards.
yeah,
Like
he's not
the Bills have
always,
proven they can
yeah,
stop him.
because I mean, it's not hard. It's truly not difficult once because he's top heavy. So once he gets through a hole in the line, yeah, it's gonna be hard to tackle because people
Mm-hmm.
feel bad about chopping down
Smaller
running
guys.
backs by their knees. But
Yeah.
no, I'm not hearing Bobby Babbage as the Ken Dorsey. No, try again.
No.
take that one to the workshop. Come on back with that one. Like if you want to criticize Joe Brady for being too late to abandon the run sometimes, okay, I'll listen to that one.
Yeah.
If you want to say Matthew Smiley is probably wouldn't get a job as UB special teams coordinator, I'd listen to that one. I'm not listening to Bobby Babish slander when they've been 10-2 and they played their one game of what the fuck's defense.
And you could argue that the Bills defense does this. They've done this before, Bobby
It's
Babbage.
every
Uh,
year. Every
I
year
mean,
they
look
have
at the
one
Eagles
game a
game
year,
last year, 37
and the
points.
Arizona game the year
Like
before that,
every
and the
single
Minnesota
game,
game the year before
every
that.
single year.
Like
Yeah,
like I said,
there's one really bad game for this defense
I
every year,
said
and
kick off
I
the
think
show.
you can make that argument for every team.
Yeah,
Every team has that one like lopsided game that's like an outlier. It's like, okay, this is not what we really are.
no,
The Bills' defense knows who they are.
yeah.
They know that they're not this. And Bobby Babbage said it perfectly in the post game press conference. I don't know if it was actually directly after the game or the following day, but he said like they know who they are. They know that this isn't them.
Yeah.
This isn't a reflection on them.
It's 11
If
guys
anything,
not
it's a
playing to their
really
potential.
good learning experience. It's a good learning experience for you because what can we do to better ourselves from this? Because the only direction you can go from this is up because it can't get much worse than that. It was probably one of the worst defensive performances probably
It
we've seen under Sean
was.
McDermott.
I think they
Besides that
said.
Colts game, maybe.
I think they said it was the worst defensive performance since that Colts game, which is impressive because I
Yeah,
think I remember watching a Bears game. I didn't watch a Bears game. I remember listening to a Bears game that was much worse than that.
yeah.
But yeah, like that's another game. The Colts game, like every year, the Bills seem to have a game where they just don't play defense. Also, the Bills seem to lose the game of the year every single year. Like it's just tradition at this point.
Trends. It's trends. If you go back to it,
I hate
it feels
I
like
hate saying trends and also thinking they're going to beat the Chiefs. I mean,
mm-hmm.
they gotta right. They gotta at some
Yeah,
point.
you gotta have it
There's
at some point.
the
Yeah,
double
hope.
magic can't run out. We can't keep going forever,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna lose on a blocked punt in our own end zone. Um. Next question comes from Jay Fluellen, 32. Will the defense be the reason for the Bills' downfall? And I'm going to quickly answer that because if I had to pick, yes. I mean, if it's going to be the offense or the defense, it's going to be the defense. I mean, the Bills' offense is a Super Bowl caliber offense. You know, like they
Would
could
you
not
thought you
run the
say
ball to
that
save
after
their life.
preseason?
No, no, I did not. And in a lot of respect goes to Joe Brady for that because they could not run the ball to save their lives on Sunday. James Cook had 6 rushes for 20 yards, and they put up 42 points. It's like, what the hell? And I know a lot of that, it's attributed to Josh Allen, his ability to extend plays and be really just an alien and freak of a quarterback. But you don't just luck into 42 points. It's schemed up like that screen pass for that
A
long
lot of
touchdown.
times you just gotta know
Josh
when to
Jacobs
give the.
set up here.
You just gotta know when to open up the phone booth.
I mean, right, and a lot of these easy button plays where you see these explosive plays are because the coordinator puts them in place. And yeah, I mean, yeah, the defense is usually going to be the reason that the Bills will lose. It will be the reason the Bills lose under any circumstances. Like you go back every year, Josh has been in the playoffs. He's done his part every single year. He's put his team in position to win. Missed field goal out of his control. 13 seconds out of his control.
Whatever
The
the
Texas
fuck
game,
happened with the
even that
Bengals game.
was
Texas game might have been his
more
fault. That
yeah, that was
might
more in
have
his
been his
control.
fault.
But that was his first career playoff game, and he got a really mediocre roster to the playoffs and nearly beat
As a mediocre
the.
offense. That defense was
No, the
probably
defense was good. You're
the
right,
defense was
but in
absolutely the
totality,
best
that offense
McDermott
was
defense he's
pretty
had.
pretty awful.
Like that
But
defense carried him
anyways,
to the playoffs.
um, the even the Bengals game, the entire team was just shitting on itself
The
the
entire team
entire
wanted to go
game,
home.
and
So
yeah, nobody wanted to play that game because of what happened 4 weeks before that.
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that could happen. I would even argue that special teams is probably the reason the Bills could lose out. I mean, because I feel like there's probably going to be a big play here or there where it's me like, what the hell, man? And we saw it this week, and it's the reason they lost. But this is still a 10-3 football team. I still have a lot of confidence in all 3 phases. It's just you got to really lock in really down the stretch here, and they need to clean it up. And it's a good opportunity from learn from it.
I was about to say, I
Um,
think special teams is more likely to kill the Bills than defense at this point.
yeah,
Just out of like, I feel more like even the Ravens game. I felt like the Bills had something going. They finally had momentum on their side right before they called that god
yeah,
awful, stupid ass trick play.
yeah. That was
Even the
ridiculous.
Texans game, they pretty much stopped the Texans in the second half, and the Bills offense
Hmm.
just couldn't get their shit together. So
Yeah,
I mean, in many ways, this was the inverse of the Texans game, where first
hmm,
half was kind of shaky, but then the second half, the defense locked in, and the offense was out there picking daisies. This game
yeah,
was Josh Allen locked in, and the defense too much California sun or something, just
yeah.
non-existent.
Next question. I'll get into this from Calvin here. He says he asks if Keon's going to be back this week, and it's hard to say because they've been slow playing this injury for a while now. They never put him on IR. I think really it's a total toss up because I mean he probably could have played this week. It's just I feel like they're saving him for the playoffs. They're saving even Dalton Kincaid for the playoffs. I want to say he's going to play this week because you still want to fight for the 1 seed. This is the Lions. This is an opportunity for you to grow and learn from, and it's a really tough matchup. I feel like you got to bring everything to the table. I know it's a regular season game, but it feels like this week they'll be back. I've been saying that for 3 weeks now, though. So, what do you think, Trent?
I mean, I thought he was going to play this week, and he didn't.
Yeah,
I thought Dalton Kincaid was going to play this week, and it hurt my fantasy football team that he didn't.
yeah.
So, um,
The real answer is nobody knows.
yeah, we don't work for the Bills. We don't got inside scoops. Even the inside scoop
I
guys don't
wish
even
I
know.
wish I did.
So,
I wish I
if
did.
Sal Capaccio don't know, we don't know.
We don't.
So,
We don't. I mean, just
sorry.
based on the optics. I mean, where we're looking at it. I mean, he seems like he's good to go, but I feel like the team is just taking their time because of the fact that the division's already wrapped up. They already earned a home playoff game. They're probably going to be the number 2 seed. Uh, they don't need to rush him back, and it's smart because why do that? We saw how last year went with all those injuries. Like, make sure everybody's ready to go. Um, but yeah, that pretty much covers it. It was a fun episode. I mean, obviously, it was a loss, and I hate to record after a loss always. But when you got a free quarterback, it makes the games fun.
Lions 425 on CBS. They're bringing out the whole CBS crew. Everyone at CBS going to be in Ford Field to watch the most pivotal matchup of the season, the Buffalo Bills versus Detroit Lions. 15 years ago, if you said that the biggest game of the second biggest game of the NFL season would be the 10-3 Buffalo Bills versus the 13-1 Detroit Lions, I think somebody locked
Hmm.
you in a mental institute or say turn off the Madden game. Um,
Yeah,
but Ben, who do you have,
we are.
and what is the score?
I am gonna go with the Lions in this one. Um, I know it's tough for me to say, but it's a really tough game. It's on the road. They play in a lot of the weaknesses of this team. I do think it's going to be incredibly a daunting task to contain all those weapons on the Lions offense. There is a possibility where the Bills just make Jared Goff's life hell, but he's been phenomenal against the blitz since that Texans game. So we'll see what happens. I mean, if Josh Allen plays the way he did this week, they're going to win. But you can't expect perfection every week, as good as he is. Um, so I do have the Lions. It's gonna both defenses have been susceptible to the good offenses. Like the Lions defense is terrible right
Yeah, that
now.
defense is bad.
It's not very good, and
They're
Aiden
playing
Hutchinson
Jamal
losing
Adams.
him, it's yeah, and so it's gonna be tough. I think they have those splash plays here and there, but I think the Lions take it like in a late game winning field goal or something like that. I
Mm.
think it's gonna be like 31-30 Lions.
Mm. Well, every logical answer I could give would have the Detroit Lions winning. However,
Yeah, but why would you do that?
the Bills have a destiny to reach, and that destiny is 3 losses. They've already met that quota. Buffalo Bills
Yeah.
win in a big bounce back game. I'm gonna go like 38-31 because the Detroit
Okay.
Lions don't have a defense and the Buffalo Bills are very susceptible to the run. So
It's gonna be fun.
it's
I
gonna
mean,
be
that's
a
the
fun game to watch.
gonna be a fun game. It's gonna be a very fun game
I
to
mean,
watch.
listen,
And then we go back to
those
the
people
last
wanted the
time.
one seed. If the Bills had won that game against the Rams and finished 15-2, the Chiefs were finishing 16-1. They got devil magic. Just don't even worry about the damn Chiefs. Get out of here. They're winning field goals on doinks now.
Yeah,
Get
I
out of
know.
here. They were never
I
getting the
know.
one seed. So buckle up and enjoy the
I
ride.
I do think that the you go back to the last time these guys played, where before the Lions were starting to figure themselves out in that game, in the Thanksgiving game. That was a lot of fun. The Bills won, obviously, at a game-winning field goal. Josh Allen, I think, drove down in like less than 20
It
seconds to
was
set up
a
a
like
game-winning field
a
goal with Tyler Bass.
50-yard rope pass to Stephon Diggs
Yeah, it was just an absolute masterclass of a game from Josh Allen.
with a
But
busted up arm
here we
too.
are. Yeah, that's right. And here we are. What, two years later now,
2 years
and
later,
the Bills are still good, and Lions. It's honestly
a
these two
potential
fan
Super
bases.
Bowl preview.
I know, and these two fan bases probably deserve this the most because
Oh
they've
yeah,
been through probably the worst of times. So couldn't happen to two better fan bases, and it will be a lot of fun to watch. And I enjoy CBS's coverage more than anybody else's, really, quite frankly. I like what they're doing with sending everybody out there doing the pregame show live from the stadium. I think that's really neat, and it should be a lot of fun. So
it should be
I
noted
hope for the
that they
best,
set up for two
expect the
Bills
worst.
games.
Yeah. So we'll sign off here. It was fun to record. We're gonna try to get back consistently for you guys now that we're late in the season. Playoffs are right around the corner. It should be a lot of fun to cover.
Plus, they play the
And
Jets
yeah,
again.
oh yeah, the Jets, and they
Oh,
do got
and
Drake
by
May
the
twice
way,
on the schedule.
we almost signed off before I could say this. There are multiple people out there paid actual money. American currency was paid to these people to go on television and say the New York Jets were going to make the playoffs. Not only make the playoffs, win the division, and maybe even go to the
Win
Super
the
Bowl.
division. Yeah.
They were going to go to the
I
Super Bowl. And guess what happened?
Peter
I
Strager
even
thought
saw
they were going to
somebody
win the Super
said,
Bowl.
yeah, I saw some people say that. And I saw people say, oh, Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers. Well.
Oh, look where we're at. Some things never change. Jets sucking, Sabres
Congratulations,
sucking.
Jets. You
Yep.
had the longest drought in pro sports, and you thought Aaron Rodgers was going to fix that. You are worse than the Sabres.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
I don't know. So
Go Bills.
yeah, again, thank everybody for tuning in. It was a great one with you, Trent. You have a good night. Everybody else have a good night, and go Bills.
Go Bills.